What's up, what's up, what's up? Thank you guys once again for joining me on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I'm Ryan Thomas, your host, live from One Buffalo, New York, BSN 716 Radio. If you have not downloaded the app, please do yourself a favor. Download it rather than, and not to throw shade at anyone, but rather than listening to the usual WGR garble. Listen to this 24/7 Buffalo Sports Talk streaming app where we got a lot of awesome shows. Ron Rico doing an awesome job. Sports Monarchy is one of my favorite shows. Hopefully you guys have been tuning into mine. I've been tuning into yours. Show me some love as well. How about that? No, I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, great shows on this network that I've enjoyed listening to. Buffaholics has been an interesting one as well. I've listened to quite a few, and I know I'm forgetting some names here, and I apologize, but there's so many good ones that I've actually forgotten some of the names, and that is the dead honest truth. But this is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, my sports podcast hosted by me, Ryan Thomas. You can follow me on Twitter at Thomas Takeover. Follow me on Instagram at Ryan_Thomas31, football number, baseball number. And you can add me on Facebook. I'm all about that. I don't have any... I'm not scared of nothing. You know, I know that there's some crazy people out there, but I'll just block you if you're weird. So, but thank you for joining me on the final part of the Thomas Take today, and I'm very excited to talk about Buffalo, the city of Buffalo, obviously, and the UFC. I went to UFC 210. I watched Daniel Cormier defend his UFC light heavyweight belt. I watched the spectacle that was Chris Weidman versus Gegard Mousasi. I watched Thiago Alves versus Patrick Cote. I watched Gregor Gillespie knock out Andrew Holbrook. I watched Miles Jury knock out Mike De La Torre. I watched Caitlin Chokagian win her fight. I watched Cynthia Carvillo beat Pearl Gonzalez. It was just an awesome night. And you know what? This is Buffalo Sports Talk. And most of the time, we talk about the Buffalo Sabres and the Buffalo Bills. But I felt like it was really my duty on this show, on this platform, to talk about the weekend that was UFC 210 in Buffalo. Boy, was it as advertised as I had imagined it to be in my mind, and then some. The UFC and Buffalo are a perfect fit. It was a match made in heaven. If you haven't noticed the headline, that is the headline, the title that I'm going to make for this show, Buffalo and the UFC, a match made in heaven. Thursday, 11:30 to 1:30, they had the UFC Open workouts where Daniel Cormier, Anthony Johnson, Chris Weidman, and Gegard Mousasi hit the pads for the fans, worked out, showed their ability a little bit for the fans, did some cool moves and stuff. And there wasn't as many people there as I had thought there would be, but it was during the morning, afternoon. A lot of people are working, and I was there. I actually brought my mom there. My mom had hoped that there would be female fighters at this open workout. I didn't know if there would be. Much to her dismay, there was not. But just the fact that my mom is a UFC fan. She likes the women's fighting. If you can get my mom interested in a sport, that just shows you that the sport is interesting. It is attention-grabbing, and it was best said by Dana White himself. You could watch a football game. You could be watching a football game. You could be watching a baseball game. But if a fight breaks out in your neighborhood, you're going to go see the fight. And that's just in our DNA. And I know that there's a lot of people at those fights that are hardcore fans like me. And I also know that there were a lot of casual fans there. And that's okay. Whatever is helping build this awesome sport into more of a phenomenon than it already has become is A-okay with me. And there were moments in the fight card where I hoped people would cheer, that they didn't. There were moments where I hoped people would boo, and they didn't. There were moments where people booed when they shouldn't have. So, in time, everybody will learn the sport. I'm not saying I know every single thing about the sport, but I've been following MMA for over 15 years. So I know, where it was. I remember watching it when it was in the UFC 30s, and it was so underground, so just not plugged in the mainstream, not involved in the mainstream whatsoever. And it is just so amazing to see where it is today. And it was even more amazing to see how in tune it was with this city. And we were starved for it. The hardcore fans were starved for it. And in actuality, what I didn't realize was that the city was starved for it. And the city embraced it. And knowing that, Byron Brown welcomed Dana White to Buffalo. Rashad Evans was here. He wasn't fighting on the card. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson was here, even though he wasn't fighting on the card. He was here in large part due to the fact that he was supporting his brother-in-law, Chris Weidman, on the card. But knowing that this was the first event in Buffalo in quite some time, he was willing to meet the fans. He met me, he took a picture with me. Rashad Evans talked to me. Ariel Helwani was here, obviously covering the event. Dana White was here, getting the hero's welcome. So it was really cool. What was really cool was to see the amount of people at the weigh-in. What was really cool was just seeing the people pile in. Seeing the people pile in from the hundreds up to the 300s. I was in the front row of the 300s, one of the front rows of the 300s. I had fantastic seats. I told everybody I was sitting in the 300s. They were like, "Oh, those aren't good seats." They were perfect. I was right in the center, looking down in at the octagon. I could see everything. It was perfect. And I kid you not, I would tell you guys if I didn't have the best seats. I loved my seats. I'd love to have those exact same seats again if the UFC comes back to Buffalo, which I anticipate that it will. $2 million was the gate. It was one of the highest gates in KeyBank Center history. I'm pretty sure it'll go on to be the highest gate once the official numbers all trickle in. Fascinating. It was really amazing to see the people at the weigh-in, the people piling in the arena, and just the buzz that was around the city, in which downtown, I got to give credit where credit is due, downtown Buffalo has really come a long way in a very short amount of time. I remember going down there 3 years ago, seeing all the construction. It was a proverbial mess of just construction everywhere. And I thought, when will this get done? And now that it is, it looks fantastic. It looks great. So that's great to see. And it's amazing for somebody like me who has been a UFC fan for quite some time. And I know you listeners out there, there's some of you that aren't big UFC fans, and there's some of you that are. And for those that are, you envisioned when the UFC would come to Buffalo, what it would be like. And for those of you that went, wasn't it better than what you had imagined? For me, it was. For me, it was for sure. Even though the event had some controversy, it had some real controversy in terms of before the event, where Daniel Cormier with the towel gate, in which he most definitely cheated that weigh-in. It was really remarkable just to have that as a topic of discussion in the pre-fight lead-up to the main event. It made it better. The controversy, whether he cheated or not, I didn't even care, due to the fact that it gave people in Buffalo something to talk about. It was really cool. Honestly, the event couldn't have went any better in terms of the bizarre stuff that happened with Mousasi and Weidman, in terms of the weigh-in controversy with Daniel Cormier. It was actually a better event because of that stuff. It gave people something to talk about. It gave them ammunition to discuss within the spectacle of the event. So I know the UFC will be back in Buffalo for sure. I've already heard things about them coming back. I don't know when, but according to my sources that I have within the sport of MMA, I have heard that the event was such a success that they are definitely going to be coming back. Now, the only problem is I don't know when. The UFC holds pay-per-views, fight nights every single month, 2 to 3 events a month. So that helps our chances at getting an event sooner than later. It also hurts our chances at getting an event sooner than later. So only time will tell, but I was really excited for this event, and it delivered. Hopefully we could get John Jones fighting here, Rashad Evans fighting here, Desmond Green with the great win on Saturday night. Hopefully he can fight here again. Gregor Gillespie out of Rochester. Hopefully he can get a win. Another win here again. His knockout was truly fascinating. A quick knockout. People I was sitting next to actually went to high school with Gregor Gillespie, so that was really cool. There were also a lot of Canadian fans in the stands, in attendance. So it was just a successful event. And it was the first time in a long time where I could honestly say Buffalo did it right. Everything was right on about the event. And I was very happy to have been to it, privileged to have been in attendance. I bought probably over $200 worth of merchandise, and I didn't even care. So it was awesome. And it was a match made in heaven. Thurman Thomas was in the stands. Eric Wood was in the stands. Richie Incognito, Tyrod Taylor, Patrick DeMarco. I believe Charles Clay was there. Reggie Ragland. A lot of Buffalo Bills players were in attendance. And the loudest applause was obviously for Thurman Thomas. And Thurman was there because of Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier is a former Oklahoma State Cowboy wrestler, where obviously Thurman Thomas is a former Oklahoma State Cowboy running back, and that was why he was there. He had heard that, he'd known that Cormier was the champion, knew that he was an Oklahoma State Cowboy, but did not know that Cormier was a huge fan of Thurman Thomas. And when they met after the fight, it was pretty cool to see. You can check that out on the UFC's YouTube channel. It went as well as I had hoped it would. And I'm very excited for the future of the UFC in Buffalo. And if you can't tell, I lost my voice at the event. So my voice is not 100%. The event was Saturday. Today's Wednesday. So if that doesn't tell you how much fun I had, I don't know what will. So if you're not a big MMA fan, thank you for tuning in. I want to talk about the city of Buffalo, how it's revitalized. Downtown is completely revitalized, and the UFC really, really came at the perfect time. It was worth the wait. The 22 years it has been since the UFC was in Buffalo, since UFC 7, it was definitely worth the wait. So thank you guys for tuning in. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I'm Ryan Thomas. Take care.